book, and before I do, I'm just going to speak briefly to what this excerpt and really the book as a whole means to me personally. So, if you asked me a few years ago how my family in Iraq is doing, I would have responded with this sort of script I had memorized and would just dish out whenever the topic was raised. I would have told you that my family is stuck at home, just trying to get by, barely getting to school, to be taught by unskilled teachers, working odd jobs that they're overqualified for. And then I would have told you about the stories that have been passed on to me from my parents, this nostalgia for a time when they would sleep on Baghdad rooftops and play soccer barefoot in the streets and enjoy the best education. And then I would say that all of that is gone now. It's no longer safe to live in Iraq. The education system has been demolished. So I was really sort of contributing to this ubiquitous rhetoric about Iraq as a hopeless place, one that was but is no longer. Jannat's story, though, which I'm about to share with you, as well as the many powerful stories in this book, have really pushed me to revise that script, which still, of course, includes a necessary acknowledgement of the impact of the 2003 invasion, but now embraces a really more nuanced and detailed explanation of what those difficulties are that people are facing on the ground, and more importantly, that's followed up by how Iraqis are challenging their oppressors and building movements. So a few years ago, I asked my dad about an uncle who was one of the few relatives who remained in Baghdad after the war, and I asked him why he hasn't left. And his response was that my uncle had said to him that someone has to stay, someone has to hold on to the house, to the neighborhood, to the continuance of Iraq as a home, and as so much more than just the war and its consequences. So Jannat's fight is really also about that, and she really takes that stance as well, as she mentions in another part of the video interview, which you saw earlier tonight. So she says, "There is life in Baghdad, and in the end it's my home. هذا المكان اللي أنا أشوف روحي بيه. It's the place where I see myself." And as Ali mentioned in the introduction to Against All Odds, conversations on Iraq never highlight these people who see themselves in this place, who are living and building and educating themselves and one another. So on that note, on to Jannat. So Ali asks, how has your work with OWFI evolved? And Jannat's response, over the years, my role in OWFI has definitely changed. In the beginning, all I did was office and administrative work. Now I'm part of the leadership. We make the decisions about the direction that OWFI will take. I'm currently working on 3 main projects. One, the Women's Empowerment Project, which includes protecting women from honor killings, and I'm responsible for a safe house for women and girls. 2, the Equality Radio and Musawat Station, which is the voice of OWFI and for which I'm the executive director. And 3, our recent LGBT project, which focuses on queer people. Back in 2008, I did not even know what queer meant. Things have really changed. And Ali asks, what exactly is the Women's Empowerment Project? And Jannat, well, I first got to know OWFI as a victim of this society. I had some problems with my family and they threatened me. If you do not straighten up, we're going to kill you. So OWFI really helped me with its shelter program. In 2007, I spent time in one of OWFI's safe houses. It saved my life. Right now, I could be a number at a morgue with my name on a stone. That program also helped me see that I was not to blame for the situation I was in. You know what it means for someone to get a second chance? This was my second chance. So when I got back into society, I wanted to work on these issues. I understood so clearly what this movement was and how it could change the lives of women. Society mistreats women based on their gender. Just because they are women, they are victims. So when I started working on this, I went to a lot of trainings to get stronger as an organizer. This is the work that the Empowerment Project does. Since 2008, our safe houses have increased and developed. Even in the current circumstances, with the presence of IS and various militias, we're able to open new safe houses. like the one we started 10 years ago. There's a kind of madness to our work. Ali, how do you see this relating to other issues in society? Jannat, as for the connection between gender and economic justice, we always say that the first step for the liberation of women is economic liberation. If women were free economically, they could take control of their situation. What we have now is a society where women always ask their husbands for money, or their brothers or sons, the roots of the patriarchal system. So one of the links between the feminist movement and liberatory feminism is the ability of women to take care of themselves and their families financially. Ali asks, how broad and deep would you say that OWFI's impact is? And Jannat's response, I'm not saying that we can change the broader society right now. With the size of the movement in Iraq at present, we are very limited in what we can do and in our reach. What we are doing now is supposed to be the government's responsibility. I mean a government that would support you so you can change laws and more. As it is, we are always confronted by the government and the tribal structure, the system here as a whole. Our movement is small, and our influence, I cannot say that it is large. But at the same time, the impact we do make is like a ray of light. We like to be the place that can ignite a mass movement. I know that I'm not going to benefit from the things that I'm currently fighting for. My daughter, or perhaps my granddaughter, might gain from what I'm doing today. Despite everything, we are optimistic.